ready to sink all US warships. Iran issues a direct threat as tensions center on the Strait of Hormuz. Blockade in place, tankers stuck, and missiles locked on. But behind the warnings, talks, proposals, uncertainty. So, who really holds the edge here? Because one misstep could ignite it all again. A fragile ceasefire, a naval blockade, and a strait that controls a fifth of the world's oil supply. The bombings might have taken a pause, but the standoff between Washington and Tehran is far from over. The two-week ceasefire between the US and Iran took effect on April 8th, halting 40 days of intense fighting that erupted when the US and Israel launched strikes against Iran on February 28th. But the pause in hostilities has done little to resolve the deeper dispute over the Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas flows daily. On April 13th, Washington moved ahead with a naval blockade on Iranian ports, and hundreds of tankers carrying an estimated 20,000 seafarers remain stuck inside the Persian Gulf with nowhere to go. Iran is not backing down quietly. Mohsen Rezaei, a senior advisor to the Supreme Leader and former IRGC commander, delivered a blunt, televised warning.
لانچرها رو احتمال قوی میدن برادران ما بردن نشانه روی کردن برای آبراهام لینکلن و همه ناوها الان زیر لانچرهای ما هست. همه رو غرق میکنه. یکی رو نمیذاریم از دست ما فرار بکنه. آتش بس رو معمولا باید اولین حکم بعد از کل توافقات باشه. به همین دلیل من قبول ندارم این آتش بس یه سکوت نظامی ما کردیم. همه توافقات که انجام شد، همه حقوق ما که انجام شد، اون بیانیه‌ای که می‌نویسن میره شورای امنیت می‌نویسن یک آتش بس. اون آتش بس به معنای آتش بس این باید بعد از همه توافقات صورت بگیره.
Rezaei also said extending the ceasefire was not in Iran's interest, insisting a permanent halt to hostilities would only be meaningful once all Iranian demands were met and a resolution submitted to the UN Security Council. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi struck a similarly firm tone, warning his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, of the dangerous consequences of US actions targeting the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, and cautioned that Washington's provocations risked further destabilizing the region. Yet behind the rhetoric, there are signs Tehran may be willing to move. According to Reuters, Iran has proposed allowing ships to sail freely through the Omani side of the strait without risk of attack, provided Washington meets its conditions. The proposal would mark the first concrete step back from more aggressive positions Tehran had floated, including charging tolls for passage and asserting sovereignty over the waterway. The strait is only about 35 kilometers wide, but its significance is enormous. Talks between the two sides stalled in Islamabad over the weekend, with Tehran blaming Washington's excessive demands for the breakdown. What happens next is anyone's guess. New satellite imagery indicates that Iran is actively working to restore its underground missile infrastructure during the ongoing ceasefire with the United States and Israel. Images captured on April 10th show heavy machinery clearing debris from tunnel entrances at missile bases near Khomeini and Tabriz sites previously targeted by US and Israeli strikes aimed at sealing launchers underground. Front-end loaders and dumper trucks were seen removing rubble, suggesting efforts to reopen access points that had been deliberately blocked to prevent missile deployment and reloading. Despite the scale of the campaign, US intelligence assessments indicate that roughly half of Iran's missile launchers may still remain intact. Earlier, the Pentagon said it had struck more than 11,000 targets in Iran within 5 weeks, while the Israel Defense Forces claimed up to 75% of launchers had been destroyed by early March. Senior US military officials have defended the campaign's impact.
The US had dropped more than 13,000 munitions, striking missile and drone storage sites, naval assets, and the country's defense industry to ensure that Iran cannot reconstitute the ability to project power outside their borders.
US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, during a Pentagon press briefing alongside Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane, had said,
Iran's missile program was functionally destroyed, with launchers and missiles depleted and decimated and almost completely ineffective.
He discussed Operation Epic Fury's success, including Iran's depleted missile capabilities after extensive US strikes. However, analysts warn the current lull in fighting may allow Iran to rebuild.
The Iranians have shown a remarkable ability to innovate and reconstitute their forces quickly. They are a much more formidable opponent than most Middle East militaries other than the Israelis.
Experts say Iran's underground missile cities were specifically designed to survive initial strikes and resume operations.
A ceasefire requires you to accept that your adversary is going to reconstitute some of their military capacity that you just spent a bunch of time and effort and money destroying. The so-called missile cities were designed with this in mind, to absorb an initial wave of strikes, restore functionality, and resume operations. This aligns with the overall concept of operations for the missile city, which was you eat the first attack, dig yourself out, and then launch again.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump signaled that diplomacy may be back on track, saying the war is nearing its end and hinting at renewed talks with Iran in Pakistan. As Iran clears its buried launch sites and the US weighs diplomatic options, the ceasefire appears less like an end to conflict and more like a strategic pause before the next phase. Iran is rapidly restoring missile bunkers struck by the United States and Israel, raising fresh questions about the effectiveness of weeks of sustained airstrikes and the true state of Tehran's military capabilities. US intelligence assessments cited in recent reports said,
Iranian personnel are digging out bombed underground missile bunkers and silos from the rubble, bringing them back into service within hours after being struck by the US and Israel. Washington cannot be certain how many missile launches have been destroyed because Iran has deployed decoys. While underground bunkers and silos may appear damaged, launchers can be quickly recovered from rubble and used for attacks.
In parallel, Iran is said to be conserving its operational assets, aiming to maintain its ability to strike across the region for as long as the conflict continues. According to a senior Western official,
Iran has been firing some 1530 ballistic missiles and 5,100 suicide drones a day across the region.
Despite this sustained activity, uncertainty remains over the scale of damage inflicted by US and Israeli operations. Previous intelligence cited by CNN suggested that around half of Iran's ballistic missile launchers remain intact, although some are currently inaccessible due to debris from airstrikes. At the same time, US and Israeli officials have publicly expressed confidence in their campaign. In response to the CNN report, White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly insisted,
Iranian ballistic missile and drone attacks are down around 90%, their navy is wiped out, 2/3 of their production facilities are damaged or destroyed, and the United States and Israel have overwhelming air dominance over Iran.
Meanwhile, the Pentagon has outrightly denied the claims. Spokesman Sean Parnell said,
The article was completely wrong. The US was far ahead of schedule on accomplishing our military objectives, including to destroy Iran's missile arsenal.
Israeli authorities have also reported destroying or disabling roughly 60% of Iran's estimated missile launches. Since the conflict began, Iran has launched more than 500 ballistic missiles towards Israel, with a high interception rate reported for those aimed at populated areas. However, intelligence assessments indicate that Iran continues to adapt. Officials believe the country is increasingly moving launch systems into bunkers and caves to shield them from further attacks, while continuing to rely on deception tactics to obscure the true scale of its capabilities. As the conflict enters a prolonged phase, the gap between battlefield claims and intelligence assessments appears to be widening. While military operations have inflicted substantial damage, Iran's ability to repair, reposition, and relaunch suggests that its missile threat remains far from neutralized, and the challenge of accurately measuring that threat continues to grow.